Pseudoregalia is a game that gained a ton of popularity already as of getting released. The game was first released on Steam the 28th of July 2023 and had sold over 28,000 copies by September that same year. That is literally just 2 months after the game's official release. Around 1 year later, the game had already sold a total of 200,000 copies, amassing over 10,000 positive reviews on Steam. To this day, the game still has a fantastic 97% positive game rating from the 13,000 players who decided to review it. Alright, so I just threw a bunch of numbers at you that you probably don't really care about. Let's just ignore the numbers for now. I'm here to tell you why Pseudoregalia is an absolutely fantastic game and why me and so many others really love it, as well as why you should check it out yourself as well. I'm going to be going through this and reviewing it whilst giving you as few spoilers as I literally can, and this is besides for the general and very early stages of the game, as well as the general features in the game, the environments, songs, and my gameplay that is going to be playing throughout the entire video in the background. To start things off from the very beginning, what is Pseudoregalia? Pseudoregalia is a 3D platformer Metroidvania with a female protagonist named Sybil, who's basically a goat bunny cat lady with blue eyes. At first glance, the game looks a lot like something that you would play on an older console, but with really nice, smooth and satisfying movement and parkour. Besides the fact that the main character of the game that you play as looks really good, and that you most likely will find more fan art of the game character than recorded or streamed gameplay if you search for any of it, the game is actually a masterpiece and an absolutely wonderful piece of art, for lots of different reasons. So the game starts in quite a large chamber with a very high roof. Without any information or any background story to this whatsoever, a rich and shiny looking mirror is shown in the middle of the room. While the mirror is still shown, the room lights up for a split second and you suddenly spawn right in front of it. From there, you start making your way through the currently locked and inaccessible rooms and past all the hidden secrets. Just a moment after leaving the big chamber, you pass through some corridors and enter a much smaller and lightly brightened up room. In that room, you will find the weapon that you're going to be carrying and bringing with you throughout the game, and shortly after you get your hands on it, you enter another room where you can find a shiny and white floating orb. The floating white orbs in Pseudoregalia are basically the abilities and powers that you need to collect in order to progress further into the game. As Pseudoregalia is a Metroidvania, you have little to no movement or abilities unlocked at the start of the game, but you quickly unlock everything that is needed and required to progress further into the game while you're exploring. If you happen to be unfamiliar with the term Metroidvania, the game term Metroidvania is a subgenre of action-adventure games that often, but not always, resist of platformer games. Metroidvanias are usually focused on guided game progression, with the goal being to acquire key items or abilities in order to enter and progress into different areas of the game and eventually beat it. Pseudoregalia is no different. The game features a total of 10 major abilities that eventually, when unlocked, allows you to smoothly and efficiently make your way through the different environments and areas of the map. The first boss battle in Pseudoregalia starts just a few minutes after you enter the game and very much gives you a good feeling of the game's style and feeling, despite that you have little to no abilities unlocked at that time. When I personally encountered the boss for the first time, I was amazed by the fact that it started so suddenly and that it actually was as much fun as it was. I also just have to say that the boss music theme goes really hard as well. After you've defeated the boss, the game for the most part just leaves you to do your own thing, letting you explore and run around in the different spaces of the world. The rooms and environments overall get a lot more open, and everything you do past this point is generally a lot less guided and far from as locked as it was in the beginning. In total, the game's world features a total of 8 map areas: Dilapidated Dungeon, Castle Sansa, Empty Bailey, Listless Library, Sansa Keep, The Underbelly, Twilight Theatre, and the Tower Remains, and within it lays Distorted Memory. I probably pronounced some of those wrong, I actually don't know. Either way, each map area has its own unique theme and soundtrack. You just heard a small part of each and every one of them, and honestly, I have to say that I genuinely love every single one of them. Every single soundtrack has something unique and special about them, even though I can't exactly explain what makes me think this. But I do think most of you would agree. But so alright. Nothing that I've mentioned so far sounds that super impressive or special, right? Nothing I've said sounds particularly special or unique for this type of game, and there are lots of other games that feature and offer similar things to what I've just said. Despite this, there are lots of different things that I've decided to leave out of this video and not really get into, such as the time trail crystals, the save point crystals, ability upgrade orbs, smaller silver keys, major golden keys, health pip collectibles, all of the different skins that you can unlock, the stools, and so many other things that this game includes. This video is mainly focused on what makes this game amazing, and not an in-depth explanation or fact-based guide, and that is exactly why I've decided to leave these things out of the video. So moving on from the actual facts and the overall information about the game, and going more into my own personal opinion on it, and the reasons as to why I personally think that this game hits all the right spots. One thing that is really good about the game, in my personal opinion, is the game's story. Maybe a story. A lot of different games benefits a lot from having a really good story. A lot of games quite literally aren't good whatsoever without a story. They are simply carried very hard by their story and the fact that it is very well written. For Pseudoregalia, it's a bit different. As I mentioned, you get thrown into a random world. You have no idea where you are or why you're there. You just see a mirror, the room where the mirror is placed lights up, and you're just there. There are no forced dialogues in the early stages of the game, but still, somehow the game very quickly manages to get you into it, both physically and mentally. Anything from the movement and sometimes very tight and barely working parkour parts, or when you cheese something that you aren't even supposed to do at that time, it always keeps you on your toes and makes you live yourself into it a ton. Mentally, you definitely get affected by all of the different and very well written song pieces, as well as the colors and looks of the environments. A lot of them really do feel very cozy and nostalgic, like Listra's library, for example. But back to what I was saying related to the story. Pseudoregalia, in a way, really does not have a very obvious story at all, if it even has one. There are plenty of different creatures in the different areas of the world, and a bunch of them you can actually talk to. The majority of them look very much alike you, just a whole lot smaller and not as full of life as you are. Many of them are caged and talks about something that has put them there, or that has affected the world in some sort of way, giving you an idea of what actually happened there. But you always question why that actually happened. How did it get to this point? There are also plenty of different sources, such as tube stones and the goatlings that I mentioned, spread out all around the map, that speak of a certain princess. A princess that seemingly has something to do with the world's distorted state that you play in. The story in Pseudoregalia is the type of story that you just can't explain to someone. Everyone who wants to take part of it and take it in definitely has to give the game a try for themselves, speak to all of the different creatures and explore all of the different areas without skipping anything. Only by doing that will you be able to somewhat understand what the game wants to tell you. I definitely understand if the majority of the things that I've said so far sounds very strange and quite vague, but in order to not spoil anything major within the game, I sadly cannot say or add much more than I've already done. So moving on to something a bit more simple and much less abstract. Something that I just can't not talk about a bit more are the different environments. The different areas within the world has such a huge contrast to one another, both in terms of color themes and general mood. As I said earlier, the game looks quite old at first glance, since the lower graphics and generally more pixelated structures hits you right away. The massive change in contrast overall, and the fact that the game goes against the more modern and realistic, super high quality looking graphics that the majority of the newer games go for, makes this game feel completely different to most others. And that is not a bad thing in any way whatsoever. I think it's fantastic. The game is wonderfully well put together. Lastly, I wanted to say that the movement is excellent. In just about every review or comment regarding this game, everyone keeps talking about the same thing: the movement. And it is something that I just can't disagree with, and it certainly cannot be ignored or left out in a video such as this. It is smooth, it's satisfying, and it's honestly quite unique. Despite the fact that the majority of the abilities aren't too outstanding, the way that they've been put together and how nicely they run and work with you makes it a true experience. Another thing that I definitely think is worth mentioning is Pseudoregalia's price tag. For a lot of people, spending money on games really isn't that big of a deal. They do it every now and then, when they have some spared up money, or whenever they've saved up for a new and big title that is getting released. But there are definitely plenty of people out there that generally doesn't really like to spend that much, and tend to stay on the cheaper side of games for that reason, like myself. And that is why I've decided to talk a little bit about the price. Pseudoregalia sits on an extremely price-worthy 5.89 euros or $5.99 US, and regularly drops down to 4.41 euros or $4.49 US. This is during certain sales that are usually 25% off. The average playtime for finishing the story in itself is said to be around 6.5 hours, with 100% completion taking 7.5 hours. You can see this in the Steam reviews and read it on howlongtobeat.com. I personally have 81.6 hours on the game as of recording this, even though my completion took much less than what I've already got right now. I don't completely agree with the said times. I would say that it depends a lot on how you choose to play the game, and it is definitely easy to spend a lot more than 7 hours on the game, just like I've done. I would personally say that the price is really good for what you get, especially if you generally like the type of games that Pseudoregalia is, basically a nostalgic feeling game, or a generally classic Metroidvania, but in 3D. Anyways, there are plenty of different things that I could add and talk more about in this video, but I honestly feel like it would be better for each and every one of you to experience this masterpiece on your own, to take that in. And if you've already played through the game as of watching this, be sure to tell me what you think of it in the comments down below. This right here, however, just about wraps up the things that I wanted to go over. I really hope you guys learned something new and enjoyed this video. Feel very free to join our Discord to hang out and discuss the game further. Link will be in the description below. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Take care, stay safe, and later.